Corpses rise, their eyes hollow, their hands clawing through the earth, driven by a hunger that defies nature itself. The sky burns, cities crumble, and humanity's last cries fade into silence. This isn't just the plot of your favorite zombie flick. It's a vision that haunted our ancestors thousands of years ago. Ancient civilizations, from the sands of Mesopotamia to the icy fjords of Scandinavia, wove tales of the undead that feel eerily familiar. Were they merely spinning myths, or did they glimpse a future we're doomed to face? Welcome to a journey through the darkest corners of human history, where ancient prophecies whisper of a zombie apocalypse. If that sends a chill down your spine, hit the like button, and let's dive into the shadows together. Why does this matter? These aren't just old stories gathering dust. They're the raw, unfiltered fears of humanity etched into clay tablets and oral traditions. Long before Hollywood dreamed up shambling hordes, our ancestors were gripped by nightmares of death turning traitor. From plagues that mimicked zombification to gods threatening to unleash the dead, these tales reveal a universal truth. We've always feared the moment life and death blur. This isn't about jump scares, it's about the existential dread that keeps you up at night, wondering what lies beyond the grave. By the end of this video, you'll question whether zombies are fiction or a warning we've ignored for centuries. What's your take? Comment below. Are zombies just a story, or is there something real behind the fear? Let's begin in ancient Mesopotamia, around 2000 BCE, where the goddess Ishtar stood as a figure of beauty and terror. In the Epic of Inanna, she threatens to shatter the gates of the underworld, declaring, "I will raise the dead to devour the living, and the dead will outnumber the living." Pause and let that sink in. This isn't a campfire tale. It's a divine ultimatum, a vision of the world undone by the undead. For the Mesopotamians, death was a restless force, always threatening to spill back into the world of the living. Ishtar's words paint a scene of chaos, corpses overwhelming the streets, the natural order collapsing. It's a fear that feels ripped from a modern zombie script, yet it's over 4,000 years old. But Mesopotamia wasn't alone. Norse mythology, centuries later, offers its own apocalyptic vision in Ragnarok. Picture this. The world is ending, the gods are falling, and the dead rise from hell, the realm of the dishonored, to march against the living. These aren't just ghosts, they're physical, relentless, driven by a force beyond mortality. The Norse saw death as a cycle, but Ragnarok breaks that cycle, unleashing a horde that mirrors the mindless swarms of today's zombie lore. Even in ancient India, the Mahabharata hints at dark forces animating the dead during cosmic battles, suggesting a universal anxiety about death's permanence. Why were these stories so common? Cultural anthropologists argue they reflect humanity's deepest fears: losing autonomy, facing annihilation, or witnessing the collapse of everything we hold dear. These myths weren't just entertainment, they were warnings, moral lessons about respecting the boundaries of life and death. In Mesopotamia, rituals to appease the dead were common, driven by the fear that neglected spirits could return with malice. The Norse, too, buried their dead with care, believing that improper rites could spawn vengeful draugr, undead warriors we'll explore later. These practices show a world obsessed with keeping death at bay, a fear that resonates when you watch a zombie horde overrun a city on screen. But let's address the skeptics. Some scholars argue we're projecting modern fears onto these ancient texts. Ishtar's threat, for example, might symbolize divine power or societal upheaval, not a literal zombie apocalypse. The Norse dead in Ragnarok could represent chaos, not corpses. Context matters. Ancient cultures didn't have our pop culture lens, and their stories often carried spiritual or political weight. Yet, when you read about the dead rising to consume the living, the parallel is hard to ignore. It's like finding a blueprint for every zombie movie in history. So, what do you think? Are we twisting these myths to fit our narrative, or did our ancestors see something we're only now catching up to? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take. This exploration taps into something primal, our fascination with the end. Zombies aren't just monsters, they're mirrors of our worst fears. Emptiness, loss, the erosion of what makes us human. Every time you watch a zombie outbreak unfold, you're not just entertained, you're confronting the same dread that haunted our ancestors. It's why these stories endure, from ancient epics to Netflix binges. They force us to ask, what happens when we die? What if we come back wrong? If this is hitting you hard, share this video with someone who loves a good mindbender. Let's keep peeling back the layers. Now let's dive into the mythology of zombies themselves. Today we picture zombies as rotting corpses with a taste for brains, but their roots are far richer. In Haitian voodoo, the zombie is a corpse reanimated by a bokor, a sorcerer who strips away the victim's soul, leaving a husk to serve as a slave. This isn't just horror, it's a reflection of real trauma. During Haiti's colonial era, slavery stripped people of agency, reducing them to tools. The zombie became a symbol of that dehumanization, a fate worse than death. Imagine waking up trapped in your own body, unable to resist. That's the kind of fear that lingers. Haiti's zombie isn't an isolated case. Back in Mesopotamia, Ishtar's threat to unleash the dead wasn't just about chaos, it was about the fragility of existence. If a goddess could flip the script, what hope did mortals have? In ancient Egypt, myths of restless spirits and spells to bind the dead reflect a similar anxiety. The Book of the Dead includes incantations to prevent the deceased from harming the living, suggesting a world where death was never truly final. Even in West African traditions, tales of ancestors returning as malevolent entities fueled rituals to keep the dead at peace. These stories weren't about gore, they were about losing control, becoming something other. Scholars argue that zombies resonate because they embody universal fears: pandemics, conformity, the erosion of identity. Think about it. Ever feel like you're just going through the motions, like the world's draining who you are? That's the zombie archetype at work. It's why films like 28 Days Later hit so hard. They're not just about survival, they're about holding on to your humanity in a world that wants to strip it away. But there's a catch. Some critics argue that modern zombies oversimplify these myths. The Haitian zombie, for instance, is a spiritual and historical symbol, not a flesh-eating monster. By turning complex cultural beliefs into blockbuster tropes, are we missing the deeper truths? Or are we just remixing ancient fears for a new age? Comment below. What's the scariest zombie story you've heard, and why does it stick with you? Let's move to ancient texts that seem to scream zombie without saying the word. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written around 2100 BCE, is one of the oldest stories we have. In it, the hero Gilgamesh journeys to the underworld, where the dead are described as restless, capable of being summoned to disrupt the living. This blurring of life and death feels like a proto-zombie narrative, a warning about the consequences of defying mortality. Similarly, Norse mythology's draugr are undead warriors who guard graves or haunt villages. Unlike ghosts, draugr are physical, strong, vengeful, and terrifyingly real. They're said to crush men's bones or drive livestock mad, embodying fears of death's wrath. Other cultures have their own undead. In ancient China, the jiangshi, or hopping vampire, is a corpse reanimated by dark forces, moving stiffly and draining life from the living. In Irish folklore, the draugr, a blood-drinking revenant, stalks the night, fueled by betrayal. These figures aren't just scary, they're symbols of disruption, whether it's societal collapse, moral failure, or the consequences of unfinished business. They suggest that the dead don't just vanish, they demand reckoning. Some interpret these figures as metaphors. The draugr might represent guilt or greed, haunting those who break societal norms. In Gilgamesh, the dead underscore the futility of seeking immortality, but when you read about corpses rising to wreak havoc, the zombie parallel is undeniable. Scholars caution, though, that ancient texts often had spiritual or moral purposes, not horror. Translations can also skew meanings, reflecting the biases of modern interpreters. Are we seeing zombies where none exist, or are these texts proof of a timeless fear? Tell me in the comments, what ancient tale gives you chills? This matters because zombies are more than monsters. They're archetypes of our deepest anxieties. Every zombie story, from ancient myths to World War Z, forces us to confront mortality, chaos, and the fragility of civilization. It's why zombie narratives hit differently. They're not just about survival, they're about what it means to be human when the world falls apart. If this is sparking your curiosity, hit that subscribe button and join us for more dives into the unknown. Finally, let's explore cultural rituals that feel like zombie prophecies. In Haitian Vodou, rituals to create a zombie involve dark magic, binding a corpse to a sorcerer's will. This practice, rooted in the pain of slavery, warns of a fate worse than death: eternal servitude. In ancient Egypt, funerary rites included spells to prevent the dead from returning as malevolent spirits. The Amduat, a guide to the afterlife, describes dangers the soul faces, including forces that could pull it back to the living world. These rituals weren't just tradition, they were humanity's attempt to control the uncontrollable. In China, tales of the Jiangxi led to rituals like burning talismans or placing mirrors to ward off these hopping corpses. In ancient Greece, the Lemuria festival involved offerings to appease restless spirits, ensuring they didn't haunt the living. Even in Mesoamerica, Aztec rituals to honor the dead included offerings to prevent their wrath. These practices suggest a world where death was a constant threat, always one misstep from breaking through. Some argue these rituals reveal an ancient understanding of the zombie archetype. They're like humanity's first defense against an apocalypse, encoding fears of the dead's return in symbolic acts. But critics point out that these practices often had spiritual or social purposes, not apocalyptic ones. The Egyptian spells were about ensuring a safe afterlife, not fending off zombies. The Vodou zombie is a cultural symbol, not a horror trope. Are we seeing foresight or projecting our fears onto the past? Comment below, what's the creepiest ritual you've come across? This journey through ancient prophecies, myths, texts, and rituals reveals one thing: zombies aren't new. They're our oldest fears, given form. From Ishtar's threats to Vodou's zombies, humanity has always dreaded the moment death turns on us. And maybe, just maybe, these stories aren't just warnings, they're glimpses of a future we can't escape. If this video has you questioning reality, share it with a friend who loves a good mystery. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more mind-bending content. What's the darkest zombie tale you know? Drop it in the comments and let's keep the conversation alive.